bulky Pokemon difficult to remove from the field, but we're going to have to find out how they match up into each other as we get into this game. There it is. That's Galarian, Weezing, and Roaring Moon on the field right now over on Sergio's side. And there's Raging Bolt and Urshifu Rapid Strike style for Kyle.
And all of a sudden, we've got a scenario where the Roaring Moon is not the fastest thing on the field. We do have the Choice Scarf on that Urshifu, allowing itself a couple of options that it could go for. It could try to go for maybe a safe, super effective U-turn into the Roaring Moon, try to get a bit of damage, and perhaps pivot out for another Pokemon, maybe with Fake Out pressure. But we're just going to have to check out to see both trainers. I think they're probably going to scout out a bit what they can actually do. But no, we actually have a Force Terror turn one.
Yeah, quick locking in of moves from these trainers. It's Kyle going for the Terror Electric on the Raging Bolt. Its head maybe in the clouds, but it's certainly not distracted here, keeping focused on Swiss round 9 here in Liverpool. Roaring Moon keeping itself safe with that Protect. There's the Surging Strikes going into the Weezing. Of course, if it had been into the Roaring Moon, it would have bypassed that Protect if the Weezing had not been on the field with the Neutralizing Gas, switching off that Unseen Fist ability.
As we are going to see the recovery from the Citrus Berry there. Is this enough, though? We've got the Electric Terror coming out. If this is going to be a focus in for the Weezing, it would be fantastic. However, we've got the Will-O-Wisp there actually successfully connecting with the Urshifu. Going to be halving its damage output. But the question is, here we go. The Raging Bolt Thunderbolt. Is this enough to pick up the KO onto the Weezing?
Yes, it is. The Terror Electric boosting up the Electric type moves of that Pokemon. That is Weezing down and out. So all of a sudden, the abilities are going to come back into effect. You can punch through those Protects now with the Urshifu, but the Urshifu is now burned.
It is now burnt, but we do actually have the interaction of the Roaring Moon will now proc its booster energy, most likely giving it that boost in its speed in order to actually now outpace the Urshifu. Sure, Urshifu would not likely want to stay in here, but there's a case to be made for Kyle in order to actually try to sack that Urshifu, but it sort of brings you in a weird stalemate. Does Sergio try to commit to that or completely ignore the slot?
Yeah, the Weezing doing its best Incineroar impression there. The parting shot being the Will-O-Wisp instead going into the Urshifu before it went down. Now we've got Raging Bolt versus Raging Bolt. Urshifu deciding the altitude is getting a little bit much here. Going into the back, Incineroar coming out, reducing the physical damage output of that Roaring Moon. Raging Bolt is a special attacker, so not going to mind too much about that, but there's that Tailwind, and that is going to give the speed advantage over on Sergio's side.
Yeah, we've got the speed control completely on Sergio's end, now accompanied actually by Snarl, which you don't commonly see on Raging Bolt, but it makes a lot of viable sense with the Assault Vest variant. However, Dragon Pulse, not quite enough to pick up the KO. You can already see how that damage fluctuation has changed because of the drop, but likely still within a range of a 2-hit.
Right, it's, yeah, the damage counter is certainly racking up here. Roaring Moon has got that Tailwind up, so that is a key job complete. But that Fake Out, meaning that the Roaring Moon over on Sergio's side not going to attack at all this turn. Incineroar taking a drop to its physical attack thanks to that Breaking Swipe. This Roaring Moon doing what it does best right now in the meta and supporting amply as a Dragon Pulse. Super effective against the Raging Bolt on Sergio's side, but it's got that Assault Vest, so taking it really well.
Yeah, you would have barely have thought, you know, if it weren't for the text there, was that really a super effective attack? I'm not really sure because of that damage. However, we do have the Roaring Moon now actually switching out for the Golden Go, wanting to get that reposition play going. Snarl actually missing on the Raging Bolt, which is definitely not what you want to see, as the Incineroar isn't going to really rely on the special offensive side.
Incineroar laughs in the face of a special attack drop as Dragon Pulse is going to connect down into the Golden Go with a critical hit, unfortunately for Sergio. There's the knockoff into the Raging Bolt. That's the Assault Vest gone, but it's now on such low health that perhaps that Assault Vest wouldn't matter too much heading into the later stages of this game.
As now we're in a prime position to know that the Raging Bolt over on Kyle's side will likely want to try to focus down and then dispatch of the Raging Bolt over on Sergio's. But we're in a scenario where the Golden Go, if you do kind of ignore it, it starts becoming a threat. But the Incineroar on Kyle's side is so well placed right now that it can want to try to be safeguarded for the later mid to end game scenario where it knows it could completely just overhaul it. But there you go, the Nasty Blast coming out though.
Golden Go having a light bulb moment there, getting a boost to its special attack by 2 stages. Thunderbolt gonna connect down into that rapid strike style Urshifu. Really good call there by Sergio, and good call not to go for the Thunderclap as well. Would have done nothing against the switching out Pokemon, but it's going to be Carl responding with the Terra boosted Thunderbolt down into this Golden Go. How much is it going to do? Golden Go is going to hang on.
Wow, hanging on, showing why the Snarl was so important from Sergio's side, not allowing it to pick up the KO, but still, at this current point, Sergio does really need to try to prioritize effectively, because you've got this Chi and Pow and an Incineroar on the back. All you need to do is get a couple of rotations in if you're Kyle, and all of a sudden you've got Fake Out, you've got that speed control, or should I say the speed advantage, with Chi and Pow being able to focus down on some really big threats. And Roaring Moon in the back no longer has access to its booster energy, so it will most likely, depending on training, be slower than the Chi and Pow.
Yeah, booster energy consumed on the, well, not the very first turn, but as soon as that Galarian Weezing was down and out for the count. Carl Doran of the UK seemed to benefit from the home turf right here and now, but still, this game has a way to go. Golden Go nice and set up, but no longer has that speed advantage.
Whoa.
Thunderclap coming out, but that is not going to be a damaging move coming out from the target, as Ice Spinner will be whirling its way right into that Raging Bolt for a super effective hit. Sergio down to just the Roaring Moon and the Golden Go, but once again, that booster energy has been consumed, and look at that. Golden Go able to set up another nasty plot here. Is that going to be greedy? We'll find out as the game progresses.
And I think in this scenario, it's sort of your only option. You need to try to bank on baits if you're Sergio, because you know you've got double priority available on Kyle's side if for whatever reason their Pokemon can't actually outspeed. So Roaring Moon now sort of coming in, spells a bit of trouble because of the amount of offensive pressure and speed that Kyle's going on inside.
Yeah, perhaps this Roaring Moon going to be trying to set up another Tailwind here to try and outspeed the Pokemon over on Kyle's side. That Ice Spinner, though, going to be enough to pick up the knockout there. So it's now just going to be Golden Go. Kyle has 3 Pokemon remaining. The Golden Go is on a sliver of health as well. It seems like Golden Go potentially has cashed in all its checks here.
Yeah, I think that may indeed be the case for Golden Go. That was a nice one. I like that shot. But yeah, I think this sort of leads us in the scenario where Sergio just wants to take a bit more time to reflect on a better adaptation going into Game 2, because unfortunately for themselves, I feel like Weezing, even though it had some great potential, it felt like it wasn't able to accomplish as much, because sure, you were able to get the burn on the Urshifu over on Kyle's side, but effectively, what did that do? That allowed valuable switching for Kyle, and having that trio of the Raging Bolt, Incineroar, and Chi and Pow in the back just proved to be a bit too much. He had the interactions of Knockoff 2, which really didn't help Sergio. Yeah, and that's going to be a failed double protect coming out from Golden Go. Therefore, Sucker Punch not doing anything, but that's going to be the Thunderbolt connecting down into the Golden Go, and it's gone all the way from wealthy to bankrupt. That is Sergio down and out for this game. Game 2, Kyle Doran has the advantage. Indeed, and I think it's really looking well for Kyle right now. You know that you can actually rely on a couple of those Pokemon and sort of ignore the neutralizing gas. It feels like Kyle doesn't depend on the abilities as much with the Pokemon they've brought so far in comparison to Sergio, and really, the Galarian Weezing felt more of a disadvantage for Sergio, because surely you would have actually wanted that booster energy to get procced on that turn 1. At least you can try to guarantee outspeed the Urshifu straight off the bat. If you are expecting any sort of non-Surging Strike moves coming out from it, at least you get a Breaking Swipe on. But more importantly, I think it's the speed control. You want to try to outpace, and if you can't outpace, just try to make sure you focus down on it, because Kyle, even though has the Farigiraf, has a lot of priority options. Yeah, really does. And I was just going to say the same thing, Costa. That Weezing felt like kind of an empty slot there. It was a face-off of the Raging Balls. I think also Sergio was just getting going with that Golden Go a little bit too late, and especially when Kyle has that Raging Bolt on the field that resists it so well. But then so does Urshifu, and so does Incineroar. So I'm wondering if Golden Go is really the correct call right now. It does, I think, Golden Go, it feels like, I'll agree with you, it doesn't feel well placed in this situation. I would kind of like a Hisui and Arcanine, if I'm honest. As long as you're able to protect it and make it sort of like avoid the Urshifu Rapid Strike, right? You've got the Grass Terra as an option. You try to capitalize off of that as long as you've got another follow-up Pokemon on the side, maybe such as your own Raging Bolt as a lead that can try to dispatch or at least directly threaten it, because we know that at least over on Kyle's side, the Urshifu Rapid Strike is Water Terra. It cannot defensively Terra out of getting, avoiding a KO from the Raging Bolt.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be careful about how you use those Thunderclaps as well with Raging Bolt, but what's going to be coming out right now, it is going to be that Hisui and Arcanine, Costa. You've called it, alongside the Roaring Moon. There's Raging Bolt again, and there is that Rapid Strike style Urshifu. Welcome back, Hisui and Arcanine. We missed you. Welcome to Regulation Set F as it drops down that attack drop with Intimidate onto the Urshifu. Sergio seemingly pivoting away from that Galarian Weezing, but who knows, it might be lurking in the back, ready to just switch off those abilities.
And this may be a scenario for Sergio where actually getting a bait going might be quite nice here. You could easily switch in your own Raging Bolt from your side and directly threaten the Urshifu in the subsequent turn. But the most important thing right here is getting that Tailwind support going. And just being able to accomplish that allows you more success in getting your heavy hitters from the back to force their way through.
Well, which heavy hitter is coming out from the back for Kyle? It's not necessarily a heavy hitter, but it can be. There's going to be the Incineroar switching in, playing Hisui and Arcanine at its own game, getting that Intimidate drop onto both of the physical attackers over on Sergio's side. Let's go, trainers. It's Swiss round 9. It's game 2. It's going to be a Terra into the Hisui and Arcanine on Sergio's side. Going for that Grass Terra type, so resisting now electric type moves that could be coming out from Kyle's Raging Bolt and indeed the Urshifu, even though it's now withdrawn. But it's going to be that responding Terra coming out from Kyle. One Pokemon is going to get all glitzy, and once again, it's going to be the Raging Bolt.
It is, of course, going to be the Raging Bolt here. I think it's in a prime position where it wants to at least avoid getting hit super effectively from this Raging Moon if possible. But no, Knockoff actually being the choice here at getting rid of the safety dodge rolls. Maybe a double up. Oh, and it is. It's a head smash.
Oh, and it hangs on. Raging Bolt with a sliver of HP. Head smash from that Choice Band Hisui and Arcanine. Massive damage. This is such a bulky Pokemon, but then Roaring Moon responds by surviving that Dragon Pulse too.
It really does, and it's primed now to get the Tailwind set up since it didn't opt to go for it. But the problem is the Incineroar switch in here. Kyle has been able to now exercise fake out pressure on the field, potentially leading to a passive or defensive play from this Roaring Moon. It's great to be able to commit to the Grass Terra from the Hisui and Arcanine, but you're in a spot where you just need to try to attack and pick up the KOs as soon as possible.
Well, if anything's going into that Roaring Moon, it won't be doing that, but instead it's going to be the fake out into the Hisui and Arcanine. That's going to be a failed Thunderclap onto the Roaring Moon, but of course Arcanine going to flinch thanks to that fake out.
It will, and in this scenario, that may have been a bit of an indication of potentially Kyle expecting Sergio to go for perhaps a Breaking Swipe then, guaranteeing a bit of a drop on the Incineroar. But no, Thunderclap is going to be coming out, and it will be targeting the Arcanine, but failing to pick up the KO.
Yeah, Arcanine surviving on a sliver there. Roaring Moon able to get that Tailwind set up, giving Sergio the speed advantage. It's another connected head smash into the Incineroar. Big super effective damage. That's a one-hit knockout. That's Incineroar down, and this Arcanine clearly has been wearing its contact lenses because those head smashes keep connecting.
They really, really are, and that's sort of the point that we were talking about. We needed Sergio to bring that wall breaker Pokemon to just mush its way through Kyle's Pokemon side there, and it's just such a prime opportunity to not only have speed control available on your side, but actually go ahead and pick up the necessary KOs. I'm quite interested to see the final Pokemon Sergio's side. It may well be that Golden Go coming back, but I think Urshifu might be primed for some really good action.
Yeah, could well be. And of course, the Arcanine going down to the recall damage from Head Smash. Thunderclap, don't see that every day. Enough to pick up the knockout on the opposing Raging Bolt. And that is the Terra option down and out for Kyle as well, whereas Sergio still has the Terra option in his back pocket.
Yep, in the back pocket, as Breaking Swipe will be coming out right now, bringing the Chi-Empire down to -1 of its attack. Ice Spinner not going to be able to pick up any sort of KO, but at least it does guarantee the 2-hit KO on that front.
Yeah. That Raging Bolt still taking a lot of damage there as this Choice Scarf, Urshifu Rapid Strike, rejoins the fray here. This is coming down to really close margins, Costa. It was the game win in the previous game for Kyle, but Sergio adapting masterfully here. There's no Galarian Wheezing as of yet, and we don't know what is lurking in the back as Aqua Jet is not enough to pick up the Roaring Moon.
It's not enough, but I really appreciate the thought from Kyle there. Thunder Clap does fail, unfortunately. Breaking Swipe, bringing the Chien Pao now down to -2, and that Urshifu down to -1. I think it was a bit of a Reed galore situation going on there, which Kyle seems to be the victor from that bout, bringing Sergio down to their final 2 Pokemon.
It's going to be Roaring Moon, and what is this lurking in the back? It's certainly got full health. It's going to be that Urshifu in the single strike style. Both styles of Urshifu staring each other down, letting it a little bit too close for comfort in this almost deja vu situation with Urshifu staring down Urshifu. Roaring Moon surviving on a sliver there as well. It's going to be close.
It really will be, and I think now that we know that the Urshifu Rapid Strike has locked into Aqua Jet, all it can really threaten is potentially breaking the Focus Sash on Urshifu over on Sergio's side, follow it up with the Sacred Sword, but that's susceptible to a Protect. But no, it focuses down and picks up the KO on the Roaring Moon.
Yeah, it's going to be the single strike Urshifu against the Rapid Strike and the Chien Pao. Close combat into the Chien Pao, going to be more than enough to pick up the knockout there, being a doubly super effective move. Now, as you said, Kyle's Urshifu is locked into the Aqua Jet, and is that going to be enough to clinch this game against Sergio? It's probably unlikely, even though pretty full health bars on both sides.
You're already seeing why that Galarian Wheezing was holding Sergio's team back.
Okay.
Oh, wow, okay. That was
hit.
a lot of damage, wasn't it? But no, no close combat focus here, of course, does actually make this situation quite intense.
Yeah, really intense. Another Aqua Jet, not a follow-up critical hit. Those Intimidates and Breaking Swipes paying dividends here for Sergio. There it is. Sergio has picked up game 2. It couldn't have been really any closer than that, and we love to see it. The trainers might not want to at this point, but we're going to a game 3.
Yeah, you could tell the stress that Sergio was going through.
We feel you.
Yeah, we definitely do. The moment that you saw the critical hit, you knew, of course, the Urshifu was down to -1, making that safe play. That I do quite like it, because you don't want to bring your own defense down to -1 at that point and be susceptible to not only a crit, but a crit at -1 the subsequent turn. So just trying to make sure you put it within that range that close combat will guarantee the KO was quite nice. But yeah, I think we were talking about it, Charlie. The fact that you had the Tailwind available was so crucial. Wheezing was just too passive. It's great to get a burn off, but what's your partner doing? Yeah. And you're actually blocking your partner's potential. So making that adaptation really, really worked out, especially with that wall-breaking Hisuian Arcanine.
Right, and now this is really interesting going into game 3, because it was the Tailwind that was so crucial for Sergio. So does Kyle lean into the Farigiraf to set up the Trick Room, sort of prime Sergio to bring the faster Pokemon, because that's what's worked for him. But this is the mark of such a fantastic team builder, knowing that you have those other options available to you and completely flip the script, flip the dimensions, get that Trick Room set up. It could well be the call for Kyle right now.
And it's sort of a mind game for both trainers, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because you need to consider the obvious Farigiraf bring and maybe opt out because of how obvious it is. But that falls on Kyle to anticipate whether Sergio will try to adapt to the adaptation.
Yeah, is Sergio going to bring back either of the 2 Pokemon that might have been holding him back in game 1, that Galarian Wheezing or the Golden Go? Let's find out, trainers. It's our final game of day 1 here at the Liverpool Regional Championships. Get on that hashtag play Pokemon and let us know how you're enjoying this nail biter as Sergio sends out the Roaring Moon and the Raging Bolt, and it's going to be the Incineroar and that Farigiraf for Kyle. Regulations at F is the regulation of the long necks, isn't it, Costa? Raging Bolt and Farigiraf staring each other down.
They really are, even though not directly, they are within, well, the eye vision of each other. And I think, once again, the fake-out pressure with the good old-fashioned Trick Room setup is just a good old standard VGC strategy. And I think Sergio just unfortunately not really liking the look of that. Switching in the Arcanine, maybe wanting to make sure he has that more dynamic, instant approach available to themselves whilst dropping that attack over on the Incineroar. Incineroar, expecting most likely the fake out in that slot.
Right, and no fake outs, no thunderclaps, no extreme speeds will be active as long as Farigiraf is around. Is going for that Fairy Terror type, looking blissfully happy on the field, trying to do what it does best, setting up that Trick Room. Fake out, of course, can come out from Kyle's side. This is going to be a really, really safe Trick Room now because the Hisuian Arcanine has just switched in.
And I liked what Kyle did there. Opting to go for the Fairy Terror means that you can ignore the Roaring Moon because most likely it is definitely not going to pick up a KO with a knockoff, which of course was threatening it super effectively, even at -1 of its attack. However, we do have the Psychic now focusing down with a critical hit into the Arcanine, and knockoff being targeted, not doubling up, but focusing on that Raging Bolt, getting rid of its Assault Vest, and just looking at the amount of power coming out from the Thunderbolt, electrifying the Farigiraf to the point where it is now paralyzed.
It's paralyzed and it's gone. It's gone. The paralysis didn't even matter as it turned out. Farigiraf is down and out, so is Carl's Terra option, but crucially, it did set up that Trick Room, and all too often we see that that can be enough. You get the speed advantage on your side. It's Raging Bolt in the back that Carl is going to be switching in. This is a team that is quite potentially, this is a Raging Bolt that's potentially built slower than the Raging Bolt over on Sergio's side, given the Trick Room option that Kyle has available. Is this Trick Room going to come back to bite Kyle at the end of the game? We'll have to find out.
And it's a tough situation because if you're Sergio, you most definitely want that Arcanine to be preserved for a later time in order to have that wall-breaking potential of it. Go for those head smashes. Make sure that you can outspeed both the Incineroar as well as the Raging Bolt. But once again, need to take into consideration the priority. Thunderclap, just proving why it is so important, may lead you to try to focus in on an extreme speed scenario now that Farigiraf is off the field and out of the game.
Yeah, now that Arcanine can reset its move of choice, holding that choice band by switching out. Roaring Moon rejoining the fray here. It's time for a responding Terra coming out from Sergio. The Pokemon of choice will be that Raging Bolt, of course, and it's going to be the Fairy Terra type there. It's the Terra Electric on Carl's Raging Bolt, but Sergio going for a more defensive option, which is certainly what you want in front of an opposing Raging Bolt. That's the highest heart I've ever seen Costa on top of that Raging Bolt. Here's a Flare Blitz into the Roaring Moon. It's not going to be very effective. Is it going to pick up the burn? Oh, it's going to be close. No, it's not in this situation. Here's a Snarl coming out as well.
Really nice defensive Fairy Terror coming out from that Raging Bolt there. Just wanting to guarantee that you are not going to be susceptible to any sort of weird speed interactions and Dragon Pulses focusing down on it, because right now all the Raging Bolt needs to try to do is support trying to expire the remaining turns of Trick Room, which it definitely has great potential in doing so, but not yet, as it's just going to be going and it's switching itself straight out to get that Intimidate job.
Yeah, Arcanine rejoining the field here. It's got enough HP to drop down and Intimidate, but probably not enough to stick around for much longer in this game. Flare Blitz connecting into the Arcanine is double resisted, so that Hisuian Arcanine does survive. Incineroar getting a little bit of recall chip, of course, but this Thunderbolt going to be easily enough to pick up the knockout onto Arcanine. So that is Intimidate down for Sergio.
That's a solid double up on that slot there. Not actually tempted to go for the Dragon Pulse into the Roaring Moon, which it does actually try to retaliate there with the knockoff. Does get rid of the safety goggles, of course. We know, at least in this matchup, does not seem to be any have any relevancy. But at this point, we're still in Trick Room for one final turn. Urshifu, single strike, is now on the field over on Sergio. So maybe in a scenario where you just want to try to wait out this final turn, but then again, that may be a bit too easy to read into, so it could be taken advantage of.
Right, and you've got Urshifu there not denying the protect over on Kyle's side of the field. It's 3 Pokemon apiece for these trainers. Kyle has an unrevealed Pokemon lurking in the back. It's interesting to see that Trick Room going up because it seemed like Kyle hasn't really been able to capitalize on that, even though it was set up. Incineroar will be switching out in favor of Kyle's final Pokemon, going to be that Chi and Power, refrigerating the situation, dropping that Sword of Ruin on the field, getting a defensive defensive, dropping Aura down as Roaring Moon is also going to switch back to Sergio with Raging Bolt coming out once more.
And this may prove to be quite risky if you're... Well, I mean, if you wouldn't have gone for that detect there, but actually I do really like that. It was a good sort of interaction of guaranteeing one slot is safe whilst you bring in the other, and the Dragon Pulse actually, of course, not being anywhere near effective onto that Fairy Raging Bolt over on Sergio's side. So all of a sudden, yes, we are outside of Trick Room, but Kyle's done well to at least try to safeguard and have that Chi and Power available for the end game in order to be the fastest thing on the field.
It's a Pokemon you've got to hold your breath when you switch in because it's such a frail Pokemon, but fortunately the Chi and Power has got in for free here, and it could be absolutely crucial for Kyle heading into later stages of this game. Right now, Incineroar is going to do what it does best, come back in, drop that Intimidate on the field, and why wouldn't you be intimidated? Such a prominent force in VG ever since its introduction. That single strike style Urshifu not going to appreciate the Intimidate drop. The Thunderclap doing really good damage, crucially breaking the focus dash. That's going to be a super effective close combat. Incineroar going to survive thanks to the Intimidate drop that it gave to the Urshifu.
And in this scenario, of course, we know that the Incineroar is going to be able to recover. There's likely going to be a double up in that slot because you really do want to try to get rid of that Chi and Power. But no, actually a Snarl, further mitigating the damage output of this Raging Bolt. And all of a sudden, we're in a scenario where, yes, Fake Out is available, but you want to try to make sure that Chi and Power doesn't have any room to focus down and pick up the KOs it needs to. So as long as you've got multiple Pokemon on your side of the field and maybe one Chi and Power, if you're Sergio, you can try to handle it. You can handle it quite well. However, you just need to make sure that you're taking advantage of a bit more of a slower board for Kyle's side.
Right, well, this time it's going to be the Urshifu withdrawing in favor of the Roaring Moon, joining the field here. Of course, Kyle's terrestrialization option is down already, having gone for that Farigiraf earlier on in the game, and that could prove crucial. Another Snarl coming out, just mitigating even further the damage output on this Raging Bolt. One of these trainers really looking to secure a knockout onto either the Raging Bolt on Sergio's side or the Incineroar on Kyle's side to prevent this revolving door of intimidating and Snarls coming out to try and bolster up the stats of your Pokemon once more.
And this is what I really like about Sergio's play. You're able to force Kyle to have to either make the switch or just wait for the Pokemon that are on the field to actually take more damage. So Kyle has to, at some point, go ahead and bring the Chi and Power, make it available on the field, and not slow down both of his Pokemon in regards to damage that they're taking right now. Because at this point, it's gonna basically be KO'd right there with the Thunderbolt, and you know for a fact that the Tailwind now being set up is really not good.
Yeah, well, Dragon Pulse not going to be enough for the Roaring Moon there, as Incineroar is indeed down, so no more pivoting around getting the Intimidate drops coming out. But Kyle have been whittling away at the health bars over on Sergio's side of the field. Chi and Power is a pretty good Pokemon to have in this situation. It's fast, it can deal fantastic damage. Raging Bolt has seen better days, but it's also been providing such ample utility right here for Kyle.
In this scenario, we've got Sergio, of course. You've got the Tailwind. You know that all you need to do is guarantee outspeed the Chi and Power once you've broken its Focus Sash and Dispatch of the Raging Bolt, which so far, Sergio's been doing a really good job in actually dropping its special attack through those Snarls. But yeah, there we go. It's actually faster under Tailwind through that interaction. Sucker Punch, not quite enough to pick up the KO on the Raging Moon, but guess what is the Thunderclap double up into the slot, now bringing Sergio down to his own final two Pokemon.
Roaring and raging all around on the field here as Urshifu rejoins the fray. It's a testament to Regulation Set F that we've got these Raging Bolts staring each other down. So you've got Urshifu and the Raging Bolt over on Sergio's side. Focus Sash is broken all around. This is going to be an explosive turn.
It really will be, because you're forced into, yet again, mind game galores. Nothing is set in stone right now. Each Raging Bolt needs to get rid of one another, but more importantly, Kyle needs to focus down on that Urshifu, which is the direct threat to that Chi and Power as well. It's going to be very tricky. We saw the interaction of the Raging Bolt over on Sergio's side actually outspeeding the Chi and Power, likely meaning Kyle needs to play a bit more defensive and get that Tailwind to expire.
Right, and Chi and Power is going to be following your advice there, because they're going for the Protect, trying to stall out the Tailwind. Raging Bolt doing the same. So Kyle just trying to get himself in a position where his Pokemon can be the ones with the advantage. damage.
Yeah, I think Kyle's just going to have to depend on a double protect here, if I'm completely honest. You're able to bait any thunderclaps or sucker punches for whatever reason coming out from that side. But yeah, if you are Sergio, you need to take into consideration double priority over on Kyle's side. So there's a lot going on and a different couple of interactions that can happen that may completely turn this game on its head.
Yeah, and what mighty lofty heads they are with these Raging Bolts staring each other down. Chien Pao not going to get the double protect here, so that Pokemon incredibly vulnerable here. Going to be the Sucker Punch onto the Raging Bolt. That's enough for the knockout onto Carl's Raging Bolt. It's just this Chien Pao that is incredibly vulnerable right now. Draco Meteor looks like it off you. It is going to connect. Look like that might have been a miss, but that is Carl's Chien Pao down. That is Sergio Sanchez of Spain getting the win and in, and your winner of Swiss Round 9 here in Liverpool.